Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to just be sitting down and playing with a bunch of new products. I know that I've been doing quite a bit of trying new makeup videos recently. Honestly, it never ends. There's so much new all the time, and I always get requests to try these products. I do feel like it's slowing down a little bit, so hopefully soon I'll be able to do just more like favorites or updates, things like that. But today I really want to focus in on the new Charlotte Tilbury Cream Face and Body Bronzer. I also have the new Natasha Denona High-Gen Skin Glass Hydrating Serum, the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Balm Powder. I picked up this Flower Beauty Spotlight Liquid Highlighter I thought would go well with all of the cream products we're using. I'm going to be using the One Size blush trios as well. I just hauled more colors in my recent Sephora haul. I did get a sample of this Tarte Power Flex Concealer. It really doesn't have good reviews, but you know, my job is to review the good and bad, so we're just gonna try it out. I also have the Wishful Skin Eye Lift and Contour that's brand new, as well as the Dominique Cosmetics The Moment eyeshadow palette. This looks really beautiful, so I want to do something neutral today with this. I do also have the Sigma and Samantha Ravndahl collaboration, so I do want to use these brushes while I'm doing my makeup where I can. For lips, I have a ton of different options, so we will just see where the look takes us, and then I decide from there. So as usual, I will link all the products I used today down below in the description box. If you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe. And if you enjoy trying new makeup or first impression videos, please give this video a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get into the makeup look, I want to say thank you to Buildbar for sponsoring a portion of today's video. If you've been here for a while, you know my love for this brand. And if you don't know Built Bar, they are the best tasting protein bars I've ever tried. I've been eating Built Bars for years now. I've been a loyal customer. Along with working with them, I do purchase my own restocks. I did just recently pick up 2 more boxes of the banana cream pie puffs, and then also 2 boxes of the brownie batter puffs, which are so yummy. So the reason I love Built Bar so much is the macros are incredible. The bars taste so good, and they do come out with a ton of limited drops. So for me, it never gets boring because I do get to try so many different flavors. Right now, I'm really into the puffs, and the banana cream pie has just been a staple for me. To give you an idea of the macros, this bar is 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, 7 grams of sugar. So you're getting that high protein, but with low calories and low sugar. The puffs also come in churro and coconut marshmallow, and then they do limited drops. If you're able to get your hands on the brownie batter, it is so delicious. They did also just do a birthday cake with sprinkles, so definitely follow them on Instagram to keep up with what they're coming out with next. In terms of the texture on the bars, the puffs are more lightweight, fluffy, more of that marshmallow feel covered in chocolate, and the original bars are denser and more chewy, but also covered in chocolate. So it really is just your preference. The puffs are super light and airy. I feel like a lot of you would love those, especially if you haven't tried Built yet. I would start with the puffs. So if you're interested in checking out Built Bar, I do have a 10% off code, which is BabsBeauty10. I will put it on the screen and down below. Highly recommend checking them out if you're looking for a way to get more protein in, but that also tastes good. You can take them on the go with you. So I will leave the link down below as well as my code. Thank you to Built Bar for sponsoring this portion of the video, and let's get into this trying new makeup. So I've got you zoomed in, and I thought we could start out with this Wishful Skin Eye Lift and Contour Wand. So this is essentially a retinol alternative under eye serum. It's supposed to depuff. It's also supposed to help with wrinkles and fine lines and dryness. It does have a cooling tip, and then when you push the cap on the bottom, it does come up just enough to put on your under eye. I almost just literally flung it across the room. Starting out strong here. Okay, it feels really nice and cooling on your under eye. Now you can use this all around your eye. I already put my eyeshadow primer on, which was my mistake. So it's very thin, and of course the tip is cooling, and when you push it one time, that's enough product. So I think that's kind of nice that the right amount comes out. Of course, this is a skincare product, so it's one of those that I'm gonna need to use, you know, longer than just one time. It feels a little bit tacky, but you know, so far I really can't tell anything. We'll have to just kind of wait and see. Now you do also get a refill with this, which I thought was nice. It is more expensive at $45, but it comes like this, and then you do get a separate refill. So you're kind of getting, you know, 2 I guess, in one, so the $45 price may not be that bad. All right, so let's move on to the Dominique Cosmetics The Moment eyeshadow palette. I got this a while back, and I think it was maybe like during the Sephora sale, things were a little bit crazy. I swatched this and it looked really, really beautiful. I think I showed it on Instagram stories. Now, I know that Dominique Cosmetics just came out with the new powder, concealer, and also the sponge. I normally get PR from them, but I didn't receive that, and then when I went to buy it, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days ago, the powder sold out, but one of you told me that they're restocking it in a few weeks, so I'm hoping that I can get it when it restocks. I really just didn't want to order just the concealer because I heard the powder's great too, but we'll just have to see. So I think I'm going to start out with this shade down here, which looks to be a little bit of a cooler toned brown. I'm also going to be using some of the brushes from the Sigma and Samantha Ravndahl collaboration. So these are really interesting because they have a metal feel to them, so different than the typical Sigma. They do fade from silver to black, and they are a lot of really detailed brushes. So I'm interested to try some of these. So this is called the Shader Creaser. I'm gonna use this and do more of a, I guess, precise crease. So when I watched Sam's reveal video, it was interesting to see how she wanted these to be more detailed brushes for just different steps in her eye routine, and she felt like she couldn't find brushes that would fit what she needed. These do remind me a little bit of like the Rephr brushes. That's one thing that I think Rephr excels in, is their detail eye brushes. A lot of them are just so small and precise. So that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from these, which I think is missing from the market a lot of the times. We really tend to see a lot of just like fluffy blending brushes. So I'm just gonna take a brush with nothing on it. This is just a Smith brush. I'm just gonna blend over this to soften it. So we've had an eventful pond situation going on recently behind my house. I don't think I've said anything about it on Instagram, but you know, it's been a wild ride. So behind my house, there is a pond. When we bought the house, honestly, I really just loved that there wasn't a neighbor right behind us. So it's just nice to not have, Johnny behind us just like cooking out. It's like I'd like to have a little privacy. So I really liked that about the house, and I didn't think about all the aspects of the pond having like ducklings and geese and herons and turtles and all that. So I can see the entire pond from really my main lower level. So just like the kitchen, the living room, all of that. So I'm constantly just sort of looking out. We have a ton of big windows back there. And I have become the pond police per se. Plus I love animals, so I'm always like, looking for, the new babies that the ducks and geese have. And we mostly have ducks. We do also have deer that come as well. I'm gonna grab this detailed blending and then go into this really deep brown shade. So because we have a pond behind us, we have a lot of ducks typically, and we do have herons and stuff like that. But once in a while we get geese, which I know that geese have a really, bad reputation. They hiss and they're just not very friendly. They poop everywhere. When it freezes in the wintertime, because the pond behind us is I think it's called a retention pond, it never freezes. So we do tend to get geese, and a lot of them at that time because all the other ponds freeze. So when that happened, we did have a little couple hang around. So they were the only 2 geese that hung around since it was cold, and then eventually they did nest. They did actually put their nest right under the bay window of the house behind us. And so you could see that Mama was spending most of her time on the nest, and then the male started getting like super aggressive. There were some instances with the people behind us, let's say throwing things at the geese, kind of like charging them. We kind of had to have a little situation about that because they are protected. That sort of subsided, and then I went to Florida, and when I came home, the next morning, I looked outside. I always, do, especially when I let Roscoe out. And I see that the mama's not on the nest. She's not in the pond. And there's like a 10-foot trail of feathers everywhere from her nest towards the pond. And the neighbor that lived behind us did go over to the nest, and there was eggs in there, but Mom was gone. So we are assuming, because we did see a coyote a few months back, that a coyote, that's what my husband said anyways, a coyote must have gotten her in the middle of the night. Because I'm telling you, the male you could not even get within like 20 feet of her without him like charging and attacking you. So it had to have been something, you know, that was kind of like stalking her, and I don't really know what else would have been able to take down a full-blown goose. So that was really sad, just because obviously, I don't know, nature's pretty intense. I've learned, especially with the pond behind me, there's a lot of stuff that I never realized. You know, people are always like, nature's so beautiful, and it is, but you know, it's survival of the fittest. Dang, like I was really kind of excited to see the little fluffy babies behind the pond, but unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. So I think I'm gonna go into this shade right here and use this really small brush. This is the Detail Shader. See if it picks up. Seems to be picking up on the brush. All of the shades in here are quite deep, so I feel like it would be a great option if you feel like palettes don't ever give you enough depth. So I'm gonna dip into this deeper bronzy shade, and I'm gonna try, I don't ever do this shape, so hopefully it turns out okay. Going back into the deepest brown, and I'm gonna use this brush, which is the Detail Pencil brush, right above where I put that. Okay, so I completely just changed the way that looked because I don't like it, but I'm gonna try to remember how I did that. So I just sort of went around the edges of where I put that shimmer. And then I used that first brush, which this is a standout for me just because it's really small and detailed, but it also not super dense, so you can blend. And then I went back in with the gold and just really brought it up way higher. This is another brush that's really helpful because it just has that pointed tip. And now I'm going in with the brown shade, the deepest shade, and I'm packing this on lower on the outer corner here. Taking a little bit of that deeper bronze shade and just sort of putting that in the middle. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my Nabla Cupid's Arrow liner in black, and I'm gonna use the winged liner brush from the Sigma set. And I'm just going to place this across my upper lash line. I'm not gonna do a wing, but I'm gonna use this just to place it. And then I'm taking this Detail Pencil brush, and I'm gonna smudge this up like into the outer V here. So I went ahead and applied lashes. These are the Glamnetic in Banger. I had a hard time getting the inner corner to stick, which was a fun time, but I'm gonna leave the eyes there for now. I wanna move on to the skin. So this is the new Natasha Denona High Gen Skin Glass Energizing and Hydrating Primer Serum. This is her newest launch. I did get this in PR. I know there was sort of a situation that happened. Essentially, a brand owner, I believe it's called Skin Glass Beauty, said that Natasha, you know, took her idea and her font and the name. Natasha made a statement saying that moving forward, they were going to just market this as Hygen and take the skin glass part out. On one hand, I think Natasha's team should have Googled and maybe used different terms. On the other hand, if it's not trademarked, I'm not really sure legally, you know, what can be done. I also feel like we hear skin glass or glass skin a lot. It's very trendy right now. So that's my take on it. I do know that the Skin Glass Cosmetics or Skin Glass Beauty, her entire website is sold out. So she did end up getting a lot of press and selling out her products. Natasha apologized, said she was going to stop promoting the skin glass aspect. So again, I don't really know. I just wanted to touch on it because I know if I didn't touch on it, you know, people would say, well, what about this? So that's all I can say about the situation as of right now, but I do want to test this out for those of you that are interested. So this is supposed to be a hydrating primer that controls oil and boosts your hydration. Of course, has hyaluronic acid and a bunch of other ingredients in it. Now, I think the packaging is really nice. It's different for Natasha Denona. It does have a dropper, and this definitely has a radiance to it, meaning that there's actual sort of like illumination in there. So I wouldn't use this like at night. This is more of a like before makeup. It feels really soft, like a gel serum. So they say to apply 3 to 4 drops onto your skin. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep this out of my T-zone. It has a slight scent to it. but it doesn't seem overpowering. So I'm just gonna put this really in the areas that I'm more dry, and then I wanna use the Myrix in my T-zone. This feels really nice on the skin. It's not overly illuminating, like there's not like glitter particles that I can tell, but it does just give you this sort of soft glow, and it is hydrating, but it's very thin. So it's not like the Rare Beauty illuminating primer that dries completely down, but it's also not like a really thick layer on the skin. For the T-zone, I do want to use my Myrix Yummy Skin. This is the Blurring Balm Powder. This is interesting because you can use it in a ton of different ways. I picked up the shade 3, and then they did send me the entire line, which I was like, whoa. But I've just been using it as a pore primer. Now I am absolutely in love with my Hourglass primer, but I am testing this out and I do like it. For me, there's not enough coverage on this to wear as a foundation. And I did try out the shade 1 the other day when I had no self-tan on, and it did sort of like settle into my pores like little dots, where I don't notice that with this shade 3. So I think this does a good job at blurring the skin, and I didn't get greasy with it. I didn't necessarily notice that it mattified, but I've only used it I think like 3 times so far. So I just want to continue to test it out. So you can see the Myrix just kind of evened my skin tone out slightly, but it's not something that I would personally use as foundation. So I'm going to quickly apply my foundation off camera. I'm just going to mix my Armani Luminous Silk with my NARS Soft Matte. I love this mixture. And then we will jump into the cream bronzer, the concealer, the cream blush, and all of that. So foundation's on, and I want to go in with the cream bronzer next. I like to do that first and then my concealer. That way I can cover up any mistakes. I'm not the best with cream bronzer, but this is the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer. I picked up the shade Medium. I've not even swatched it yet, but the packaging is really pretty and it is quite large. Now I am more of a powder bronzer type of gal, but a lot of people were super excited for this. So I wanted to buy it to demo for you guys. So this is the shade Medium. There was only 4 shades, which I thought like that didn't seem like enough, especially for such a big brand. Be nice for her to, you know, expand. Okay, touching this, it feels quite dry, meaning that it's not like overly emollient. It's not the normal Charlotte Tilbury product that usually is like very dewy and very hydrating. Like when you think of her foundation, the Beautiful Skin foundation was incredibly, incredibly overly dewy. So I'm gonna take my sponge and dip in and just grab some product. It does seem to be pigmented, but there's some sort of like soft matte feel to it. I was gonna say sort of like the Say Beauty, but this even seems a little more matte to me, because the Say Beauty, once you sort of work your brush or fingers in, it gets a little bit more emollient. This is not. Like, just feeling it, and even on my hand, it's almost like it is like a cream to powder. It seems to be blending just fine. It is definitely just not the texture I was expecting. I was just really expecting something super emollient, very, very dewy. This is not at all. So I feel like this would be a good option for combo skin or even oily skin. I don't think that it would be bad for dry skin, but it's not very emollient. Even when you just look at it after I've been using it, it looks almost like a powder. And even when you rub in, it's got this like putty type feel. It's almost like a Super Shock from ColourPop, but a little bit more cream. I don't know, something interesting about it, but it's very easy to use. Like, I didn't struggle to blend it at all. It is a little bit deep maybe just because there's only 4 shades, but I really didn't have any issues using it. I want to go in next with concealer and sort of balance this out. So I got a deluxe sample of this Tarte C Power Flex Full Coverage Vegan Concealer, and it's supposed to be full coverage with a matte finish. A lot of the reviews said that this creased horribly. So we're just gonna try it out. I'm trying to see what color I got here. 20N light neutral. It's probably gonna be a little light for me, but again, there wasn't that many options. So I am just going to apply this as I normally would. Feels thicker than I had thought. People just said this creased, like a lot of the reviews. The main thing that I saw in terms of like negativity was that it just creased. So we'll have to see. I mean, I do set heavily with powder. It feels very creamy, like thick and I don't know, emollient. So I'm gonna take the other side of my sponge. It's supposed to be full coverage here. Okay, I can't say anything bad about it upon my first impression. I feel like it is a good coverage, blended really easily. I didn't have any issues. Now, they said it creased horribly. Everything creases on me if I don't set it, so I'll have to see after I set it. But my first impression, honestly, I think it looks good. You guys will have to let me know if you've tried this down below. Some of the reviews said that it started to crease after a couple hours, so maybe that's it. But I was expecting this to be a tragedy based on some of the reviews, and I don't see anything wrong with it so far. So I'm gonna go in next with the One Size Blush Trios. I think I wanna use the color Fat Ass. The name's on here. Some people were saying they hate it. Some people were getting a kick out of it. It doesn't bother me. It's just like, it makes me feel really immature when I have to say it because I'm like, it's just kind of weird. But this was the color that I was waiting for it to come in stock just because it's my kind of vibe. So you have like a glowy powder in here, then you have a matte powder, and then you have a cream blush. So you can mix and match, and these are very pigmented from the shades that I've tried. So I want to try this color out, and I'm gonna start off with the cream. So I've got a little bit on the back of my sponge, and I'm just gonna work it into my hand and then onto the skin. I don't normally do my cream blush before powder, but because we used a cream bronzer, sort of switching it up. Okay, that's beautiful. I love blush so much. Like, I actually have an issue, and I'm so glad that blush is finally getting its time to shine because I feel like so many people for so long just wanted like a really neutral blush. So I am setting my T-zone with my Huda Beauty Powder in Pound Cake. And then to set over the cream products, I swear by this Dior powder. So this is the shade 3. This just works the best over cream products if you're prone to, you know, having like lifting or patching. There's just something about this powder and the puff combo. So I'm just going to press over. So to finish off the eyes, I'm just gonna go into the deep brown shade and use a flat shader brush and really put this close to the lower lash line. And then I'm gonna jump into this shade and sort of mix it with the brown and just smoke this. And I'm gonna take that same Nabla liner and put this in my waterline. And then use that same brush and just sort of smoke it. So I think my eyes are done. I may add an inner corner highlight, we'll have to see, but I wanna try out this Flower Beauty Spotlight Liquid Highlighter. This is supposed to be a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury. I mean, it basically has the same exact packaging and everything. So I'm just gonna put some on my hand here and then use a sponge. I typically don't use liquid highlighters too often, but I wanna try this out with all of these liquid products. So I'm just sort of pressing this in. So I feel like that's really pretty. It definitely does sort of set down. So you want to, you know, blend it and then make sure that you have it where you want it quickly, because once it sets, I feel like you kind of have a hard time moving it. So that definitely gave me a really nice subtle glow. This color is more on the pink side. For some reason, I'm still just a powder highlight kind of gal, but I know a lot of people like creams. But I want to jump back into the One Size palette, and I think I'm going to mix these two powders. I want to apply just a little bit on top. These are so pigmented, like you have to be careful. So I'm just sort of sweeping this up. I actually really like the shimmery side or the shimmery pan in these, because it gives you like this beautiful warmth and it doesn't enhance my texture. So I feel like it almost behaves as like a blush topper slash highlighter. So I really like adding that on top of the cream. I feel like it just really punched up my blush, which we all know I love. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off with lips. I'm gonna go into my ABH lip liner in Deep Taupe. So for lipstick, I recently talked about how much I loved these Buxom Full-On Plumping Lip Mattes. I have not heard anything about these. I actually picked up one shade in store and then I bought 3 more online. I want to try this one called Catching Rays. It's really light, so I just want to use it in the center. I love this formula. It is really thin and it has like a minty sort of feel to it, very much like the glosses, but it is matte. So it's not like a dry down matte. It is like a soft whipped sort of powder matte. I'm gonna take a little bit of my Mario lip liner in Milk Chocolate, just really lightly. And then for fun, I do want to try this Hermes lip oil I picked up. So I got 2 shades, but I want to try this coral one. This is 02. These looked so beautiful and I just could not resist because they actually had a little bit of a pigment to them, which is what I like. This one smells, I'm not sure, like fruit mixed with floral. So they feel really nice on the lips, and that's a pretty shade. I mean, they're still quite sheer, but you do get just a little bit of pigment, and I prefer, you know, some sort of pigment in my lip products. All right, guys, so here's my finished makeup look, trying out some new products, and I want to give you my initial impressions. Starting out with the Wishful Skin Eye Lift and Contour Wand. It's too early to tell. It was very thin, and it felt, you know, hydrating and cooling on the under eye. I really have no complaints about it, but it's one of those things I'm going to have to keep trying. It didn't disrupt my concealer, which is a good sign, but I'll update as I keep using this. Really enjoyed using the Dominique Cosmetics The Moment palette. I think the colors are really beautiful in here, and if you like palettes that are really deep, smoky, where you really want a lot of depth, I think you would enjoy this. I would have liked to see maybe one of these switched out for a lighter shimmer, but everything blended beautifully. The shimmers are nice and pigmented. You don't even have to wet them, and I do feel like this would be a beautiful palette for those of you with like medium, tan, deep skin tones, because it does provide a lot of depth. First impression on the new Natasha Denona serum. I think the packaging is beautiful. It feels very luxe, and I like that it's not overly emollient or thick. A lot of times very hydrating, dewy serums or primers tend to add almost like a thick layer under my foundation that really enhances my texture. I didn't feel that with this. It's not completely dry, so it definitely does give you a hydration, but it's a very thin formula. It's not overly packed with glitter. I thought it might be just from, you know, the way that it appears, but once you blend it out, it really just gives you a nice soft glow. So this is a nice product as far as I can tell. Of course, I'll have to keep trying it with a bunch of different base products, but my first impression is good. Still enjoying trying out the new Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Balm Powder. I feel like the texture and just the innovation on this product is really, really different. I like it as a primer, how I used it today. I don't know if it's going to replace my Hourglass. My Hourglass is like top tier, but I do like this so far. I do need to keep trying it in different ways. I wouldn't use this all over most likely just because it doesn't have enough coverage, but I do think that it does a nice job at smoothing your pores and evening out, you know, any redness you may have. If you want something quick that you can get out the door with, this may be for you, but I'm enjoying it so far. I just have to keep trying it out. Moving on to the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. I love the packaging, and you do get pretty large component here. I'd be curious how you would use this on the body because I do think it's marketed as face and body. The texture is totally different than what I was expecting. It just feels very like mousse-like, very thick, but like a cream to powder sort of feel. So if you were expecting something like her contour wands, this is completely different. This to me feels like a creamier ColourPop Super Shock. If you've ever tried that, it's pigmented, but I didn't find it too pigmented to work with. The shade is a little bit deep, I would say, for medium, and I do wish there would have been more shades, but overall it blended really easily. I didn't have any issues with it. I still prefer a powder bronzer, but I do think a lot of people will enjoy this. I'm still really loving the One Size blush trios. I have 4 shades now. This may be my favorite just because these colors are what I reach for. The cream is super easy to use. The powder is matte but quite pigmented, and there's something special about the shimmery shades in the palettes I've tried. You would think that it would enhance your texture and just look really strange, but if you mix it in lightly, it just really brings this warmth to your face while also almost giving you a highlight without applying one, so I've been loving these. Now the Flower Beauty Spotlight Liquid Highlighter, I do have to agree, reminds me a lot of the Charlotte Tilbury, just in the packaging and everything about it. I am more of a powder highlight type of gal, so this is not something that I would reach for a lot. I just feel like you want to put highlighter on over powder or at the last step of your makeup. So for me, putting a liquid highlighter can be a little bit tricky on top of powder because once it sets down, I feel like I can't move it and it can get a little bit like patchy or uneven. So this is just okay for me, although I do think that if you don't use powder like I do, you may enjoy this. There's something really pretty about it, but it's just not my preferred sort of formulation. So for me, it's just okay. Quite surprised to say that I actually enjoyed this Tarte Flex Concealer. The reviews really scared me away, but honestly, I'm not noticing creasing at all. I feel like it blended beautifully. It had a nice coverage. Let me know if you've tried this down below, because I really haven't heard anyone talk about this that I can recall. But so far I feel like it looks nice. The coverage was nice. It was super easy to blend out, and I'm not noticing the creasing that all the reviews were mentioning. So if you've tried this and you love it or hate it, I would love to know down below. Moving on to the Samantha Ravndal and Sigma brush set. Now I didn't use all the brushes, but these 4 really were standouts for me. I feel like the eye brushes are really helpful when you're trying to do detailed work. This is a really nice set. If you find yourself looking for more detailed eye brushes, if you do cut creases, or you just want smaller brushes because you have smaller eyes or hooded eyes. So I think she did a great job on these. I'll have to keep trying the other brushes out, but this really did help me get in there and get that detail work done. Absolutely loving the Buxom Plumping Lip Mattes. I just tend to prefer this type of matte lipstick that still has a little bit of like a satin finish. It can transfer, but it lasts longer than a bullet. I just don't like the really dry crackdown type of feel because they're uncomfortable, and I feel like once they start cracking, they get like that line and they're just really hard to maneuver, whereas this is just much more comfortable, but it still lasts a good time. So I really love these. And then I'll have to keep trying the Hermes lip oil. I do think it's beautiful. I don't know if it's anything crazy better than, you know, other lip oils I enjoy, but you know, the colors really got me, and I feel like the packaging is just super cute. Like in person, it's glass and it's very weighted. And I really just loved how these had pigment in them because I'm not really one for a clear sort of lip gloss. I like something with a little bit of color, and I like the fun colors they chose. So I'll just have to keep trying them out, but I like it so far. Alright guys, so that is it for me in this trying new makeup video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all these products in action. Let me know if you've tried these or if you picked them up. I know a lot of you guys got the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, so I would love to know your feedback. I will link all the products that I used today down below in my description box. Also, don't forget to check out Built Bar. I highly recommend. I will leave that at the top of my description box with my code to save 10%. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.